Awesome. Dan, thanks for coming on with 100 units. I really appreciate it. So this is Dan Helton. He's with the Southern Water Management Group. They do sub-metering. You're also with Midwest?
Yes.
Water Management?
Yeah, we're based in St. Petersburg, but we have customers all over the country. And in Illinois, Ohio, a couple other places, we use the doing business as Midwest Water Management.
And this is a very important topic for multifamily owners, whether it's apartment buildings or mobile home parks or even shopping centers. Any way you can do to cut your utility cost, which is a significant impact as an owner, goes right to your net operating income. It increases the value of the property and also saves you money every month. So I was really excited to get Dan on the show here. First, Dan, if you don't mind, giving a quick background of who you are and kind of what we should know about you and the company.
Okay, thank you. I got involved with sub-metering probably 25 years ago. Prior to that, I was an investment analyst for Metropolitan Life's pension funds. We invested in multifamily and commercial properties. And we had just been a joint venture on 2 large apartment communities, basically same market, and they're roughly 30 miles apart, same demographic, same product. And we decided, let's try this sub-metering. You know, nobody had ever heard of it back then. And they're like, well, you can't get tenants to pay for water and sewer. And we're like, well, they never used to pay for electric. Let's just try it. So we had 2 identical properties, one sub-metered, one not. We said, you know, you got a great property there, you market it, and you just tell them they pay for their own utilities. Same way they pay their cable, same way they pay their electric. We had those properties in the portfolio for about 2 years. The one that was sub-metered made over $1 million more on disposition. Going with that, I had a partner at that time. We brought in another investor who had 2,500 units, worked great. Within a period of time, we got up to about 60,000. He sold out to a big data processing company, and that's when we started Southern Water Management. So we've been around for about 20, 25 years, watched the technology change. We've got it down to a real simple process now.
First of all, would you give a quick introduction? So sub-metering is where you're actually putting meters on each individual unit's water intake. Is that correct?
Right. Basically, our customers are properties that only have one main water meter. And what we do is we provide the equipment, technology, and services to then charge each one of the tenants for what they actually use. So you still have a main meter from the city, but the private sub-meters are handled by us. The equipment belongs to the owner. It's all non-proprietary, but we can get into that later. But the biggest reason why you want a sub-meter is for efficiencies. Especially Florida, Texas, we do a lot of business. Water is just a very expensive commodity. And this is one way that you can lower the water and sewer usage day in and day out, 25 to 35%. It helps keep rents lower. So it's a win for everybody. When the water is going down the drain, it costs the tenant, it costs the owner, it costs the property.
And you use the term 25 and 30%. Is that a reasonable cost savings that you should see? And is that 25? I guess it's 25% of utility.
Yes, that's water usage, consumption. And that's historical for our company. It's also the government's done studies, HUD's done studies, that when it's sub-metered and you can track it, people don't take less showers. What they do is they fix the toilets when they're leaking. They just address normal everyday conservation. You don't do 3 loads of laundry when 1 load will do it. And it doesn't make any difference what the product is. We have 50-year-old mobile home parks and we have $1 million condos. It's just human nature. Until somebody puts a cost benefit to it, you don't worry about the toilet running unless it's keeping you awake at night. And the more like on the high-end condominiums that we do, the toilets don't make any noise when they leak. So they don't get it fixed.
For when an owner is looking at their property and they're analyzing, saying, "Oh, does this make sense?" What are things they should look for to see that this submetering will be worthwhile for them to do?
Well, it's worthwhile regardless for the leak detection, catastrophic plumbing error or faults. And right now, what we're really worried about, and we can detect even small leaks, is leaks within walls before you have a mold problem, a mildew. We've had condominiums that had to be condemned because of the mold within the walls. And they're like, we're already collecting for water and sewer, but we need this leak detection also. So cost benefit, we always look at national averages about 1,500 to 2,000 gallons per person per month. You got 2 people in an apartment, you should be using around 4,000 gallons at the most. If you get over that ratio, you've got a lot of plumbing problems. And we get involved with a lot of people.
You're talking about,
go ahead.
You're talking about leak detection. How does the leak detection work for your system?
All of our meters are radio frequency. They're constantly putting out data to a centralized gateway on the property. It's a cellular gateway. It's comes completely plug and play, but we're collecting data constantly from the meters. And in doing so, we can tell when there's a continuous leak, any spikes, any tampering, freeze, heat. So we're getting lots of data from that meter, and we're able to do that in real time. Owners and managers also have complete access to that data. We set up auto alerts. Some people want them to go into the phone, but the phone applications, all of our data is 100% transparent, and we're constantly collecting data and providing that to the owner and to their tenants.
One of the questions I've had owners ask in regard to submetering is the installation process and any power requirements for the units and also for the whatever the transmitting device. Do you mind going through that installation process and what are required?
Yeah, it's a great question because people get it complicated. They think there's a lot more to it. Basically, the systems that we use, we've tried just about every system out there, and we're involved with a lot of them. But the system that we've used in the last few years is a real simple system. Each meter has a lithium battery in it. That'll last for about 10 years, 7 to 10 years. It's an off-the-shelf battery also that can be replaced by a maintenance guy. It's last time I checked, they were about $5 a piece. So the meter has its own power source. It gets installed on the service line, it's ready to go. It's producing data from the moment it gets put in. The centralized gateway is about the size of a cigar box, and that can go inside or outside. And that requires a 120 volt service line going to it. It runs a 9 volt transformer is all it's doing. And it doesn't have to be a segregated line. It doesn't have to be a GFI line, anything like that. Just a standard plug. So like in a maintenance closet, manager's office, we also install a lot of them on outside, and those go into a waterproof enclosure, and it's ready to go. Plug it in, it's talking to the meters. So everything is already pre-programmed and it's plug and play. It transmits to us, we get the data from the gateway through a cellular connection. It's already pre-programmed in it. The owner of the property doesn't have to worry about anything. It's already taken care of. It finds its own cellular connection and it downloads to us. Initially, we download every hour. Once a property gets stabilized, we download typically every 6 hours.
And for the installation, do y'all have somebody go out there, or is it something that's easy to be installed that a handyman or a plumber could do for every?
Absolutely. We've gone from having installers to the plug and play system. It's simple. Typically, if you have a maintenance person that can replace a water heater, he can put a water meter in. The RF infrastructure is all of our concern. So the owner doesn't have to worry about that. It comes as a system, and all they got to do is provide current to it.
That's exciting. What are some of the issues that you've seen that people should be aware of when they're looking at different sub-metering systems or sub-metering companies when they're going to get quotes or getting an idea to do this, but they're checking out different vendors? What should they be asking?
Well, you've got two distinct questions there. The first one, let's start with the meters. We only use meters that meet the American Water Works Association standards, which is basically the same meter that you have out in front of your house. So that's the first thing. You want to make sure that you've got a meter that is going to last. Whether it's metal or polymer, just depends on what the application is, whether it's inside or outside. The equipment you should always look for non-proprietary equipment, which basically can that meter be adapted to the latest technology, because it's constantly evolving, and the meters last upwards of 20 years. They're warranted for 10. I see meters in place for 20 years. So you want to make sure that the meter can be updated and that you own the meter. So then the next part of it is, how do you want to get the data? If you want to walk around and read the meters and you want to be worried about producing your own bills, just a standard meter will work. I don't recommend it. Several states have regulations. There's a lot of different requirements that are needed. You can't just charge somebody for water and sewer and call it a utility pass-through. If you're going to do that, you might just raise the rate. So you want to look at a meter that's adaptable to the latest technology, good quality meter, and then it's how you get to data. You can do it from a touchpad, which means it's about older technology where you walk around and you can touch a pad on the outside of the building, collect the data. Next systems are drive-by systems, where a service will come by and drive through your neighborhood and collect the data, radio frequency. The ideal system is a standalone system that we have, that we utilize. It's not our equipment. We buy from a very good sub-metering or metering company that uses the same technologies as a lot of communities. And it's a standalone system. Managers' involvement is close to zero. There's nothing they have to worry about. You don't have to ever get into a unit. Once the meter's installed, the meter can be put anywhere, and we collect the data remotely and it downloads into our system. So that's two systems. Now the next one is the service aspect of it. We're a complete turnkey system. We are working with guys that might have 500 units and maybe 10 different properties or 20 different properties. They're not at the level where they want to dedicate somebody to answer the phones, do the accounting, do the billing, send the bills out. We handled, we handle everything that the city would have handled if they had their meter in there. We have customer service reps. All they do is answer billing questions and help residents out with why they got a high bill or any kind of aspects like that, taking payments over the phone. So we're a complete turnkey system. In most states, our billing fee is paid by the resident. There's a line item. It's typically, depending on the size of the property, between $3.75 and $5 a unit. That the resident pays us. So we've provided a complete turnkey system, so there's no out-of-pocket to the owner on an ongoing basis once he puts the meter in. The other services that are available are a la carte type services. They're not going to answer the phone. They're going to give you the bill. You're going to distribute it. You're going to do the collection. You're going to have to answer the questions. You know, how this bill, you got to keep up with the rates, that type of thing. Is it less expensive? Obviously, it's less expensive, but the cost to the owner is the same because the billing fee is passed through to the resident. So it's just how much involvement the owner of a property wants to be. If you have a portfolio of 5,000 units, you probably got a time to do that, and you're looking to cut costs everywhere. So if you're at that level, sometimes the a la carte services are better around. But for the mid-sized investor, you don't want to be in the sub-metering business. You're out there to make money with your real estate, and sub-metering shouldn't be a hindrance to your leasing people or your managers. And that's where we fit in.
What is the experience as far as the tenant being billed and also for the manager once a property has been sub-metered, it's been installed, and it's being introduced to the tenant and then as an ongoing basis?
Well,
what's their experience?
That's a great question. We've, like I said, we've been doing this for about 25 years, and we don't want any surprises. We don't want to surprise the residents or anything. So we have a complete startup package with letters, introduction letters, and basically we're pushing the conservation aspect. Everybody knows water's scarce. Now the choices are, you know, you keep raising rents every year, and you're trying to break even with your utility costs. The other is it no longer becomes part of the rental equation. You pay your rent to the landlord, you pay your utilities to the water meter company, Southern Water Management. Now, we press the conservation, we send out letters, we give managers form letters, said, hey, everybody get on board, we're starting this water conservation. A lot of times we include garbage also on the bill at no extra cost. And it's like, you know, we've got illegal use of the dumpsters. We all need to start monitoring it because you're paying for it when we're either through your rent or directly to Southern Water Management. So, and we really stress now's the time to start looking for leaks. What we do is we start the billing process or the data collection 30 days before we start doing the billing. And we do that at our cost. There's no cost to the owner. What we do is we identify where the leaks are and give every opportunity to get the leaks fixed. Now, mobile home communities, which we do a lot of, if the people own the home, chances are they're not going to get the toilet fixed until they get their first or second bill, and they start talking to the neighbors and say, why is yours 40, mine's 80? It's because your toilet's leaking. We have pictures from owners that are like, look, I found out by the dumpster there's a toilet, and then the next week there's 5 toilets, and the following week there's 10 toilets. And it's, you know, it's the simple things. But if you've had the same toilet for 10 years, it's leaking. On the rental side, it's toilet flappers. It's not, you know, we also, once we get the biggest leaks are always going to be toilet flappers. Your maintenance guy, you say, I've got a good maintenance guy, he goes through and checks them. I don't think maintenance guys look to create more work for themselves. You give them 100 flappers and say, don't come back until these flappers are installed. Yeah, then that'll work. We always tell the tenants when they call us, it's your responsibility to let the manager know. You let your toilet run for three months, we can't give you a credit. Now it's up to the manager. And we stay steadfast with that. It is the resident's requirement to notify the manager if there's a problem with the plumbing. So that's the leak detection aspect of that. On a daily basis, after the 30 days is up, we've already notified everybody. We send out the initial water bill and a rate sheet with what they should expect to pay. This is how much water they should use, who to contact, how to read your bill, and that goes to the tenant directly from us. The bills should go out once a month on a billing cycle. They pay us directly, either online, credit cards, over the phone. We'll take any kind of payment. We do auto drafts, we do auto payments from credit cards. So it's everything what you expect a normal city to do for you. We collect the money, and then we take our billing fee off the top, and then we send the owner or the manager a reimbursement check every month. So it's on a 30-day cycle. They pay the city bill still, but we reimburse them each month. And if the utilities go up, we notify all the tenants and their bill goes up. So the owner doesn't even have to worry about that. We get most of the utility bills directly from the municipal supplier or the manager. As they come in to pay them, they scan them and send them to us. And we constantly are monitoring the sub-metered use versus the municipal meters use. Identify any common area leaks and make sure the city is not overcharging the property. And on the same aspect, we like to get involved with a lot of investors on the front end side because they're buying a property based off of expected expenses. And sometimes we're the bad guys saying, guess what? You're undercharged for water and sewer. this isn't a realistic bill. It's either the city's meter's wrong, they're not reading it, or it's not being calculated correctly. But you want to know that up front, and you want to make sure that you're not buying something with too low of expected expenses. And then on the same thing, if we get involved with a property and it's using 10,000 gallons a unit, there's a real quick cost savings there. And then the value of the property goes up quite quickly when the expenses go down that quick.
What's a reasonable expectation for cost when you go to install sub-meters and the entire process and equipment?
Over the years, we've made it as simple as possible. We go a set fee per door. It's $150. And we take care of the radio infrastructure at no cost to the owner. So it's pretty simple, $150 a unit. We charge a slight setup fee per property of $200. That's the two expenses for the property. After that, our fee is paid by the tenant. So, and the labor cost on it, it varies from wherever you are in the country. But typically you can, whatever your typical plumbing cost is, it's roughly about an hour per installation. And when somebody's doing 50 units at a time, the first 3 are going to take an hour. He'll have it down to 20 minutes by the time they do that many. Maintenance guys handle about 90% of the installations. It's just pretty simple. You cut the supply line and you put the meter in place.
So for the $150 per unit plus the setup fee, you're going to send the number of however many meters it is required for that. If it's a 50-unit apartment complex, you're going to send them 50 meters plus the router or whatever the radio communication device is?
Yes, it's that simple. With the radio infrastructure, if it's a real spread out property, we put some repeaters that are just boosters. It's our cost. We want that system to be hardened. We want it to be there forever. So the only thing the owner has to worry about is it's $150 per unit, and that's turnkey. That's pre-programmed, everything he needs, meter couplings. So over the years, we've made it about as simple as you can get it.
$150 sounds like a really good deal. I mean, it's not like you would be getting that paid back as an owner within probably 12 months of the cost of spending.
Months. If you're considering putting in ceiling fans, maybe forego the ceiling fans and put a water meter in there, because it's roughly the same cost.
From your experience of being doing this for 25 years, what are the mistakes that owners make when they're installing this kind of system or getting it set up or operating it on an ongoing basis, whether it's a turnkey system like yours or some DIY system where they're doing it themselves?
Well, the first biggest mistake would be to buy a meter that's not safe. You know, what it's made of. That's always a concern. Our meters meet the qualifications in California. So if you want to be safe, if somebody's trying to buy a meter off the internet, if it's not certified in California, I would stay away from it. Don't try to buy some Chinese meter designed for landscaping where they don't have the water quality requirements. So that's the first thing. And then as far as do it yourself, if somebody's got 2 units, we can't really get involved. But we always suggest that they do put sub-meters in so they can track the leaks. Or 4 units. You know, we've got a minimum monthly billing fee right now of $150. So for us to get involved with any property, that's our minimum billing fee. That means, roughly 30 tenants at $5 pays our billing fee. And that doesn't mean we don't do smaller properties, which we do a lot of smaller properties, smaller commercial properties. And we pass through a certain portion of that. And the owner basically pays us the difference from the collections that we have. Now, you did mention commercial tenants, triple net tenants. It's the standard, even if it's just 3 units, each one has a $50 administrative fee on it. And that's roughly what the city would charge them in base fees if they had, each tenant had a separate meter. So it sounds like a high billing fee, but they would be paying the municipal supplier the same thing. So we'd like to see properties where there's no cost to the owner. Sometimes on smaller properties, there's slight cost. It's a very slight cost when you consider the savings that you're getting. If we find 1 toilet a year, it pays for our billing fees. When you're scratching your head wondering why the water bill went up $300-400 and sort of going into each unit and physically watching the toilets and everything, there's no cost efficient way to stay up on that. You could have one flapper go bad this month, and then 2 months later you go, what happened? Water bill went back up. Well, it's another toilet flapper somewhere on the property. It's like whack-a-mole. You know, well, as soon as you get one up, you knock it down, and then another one pops up. With the water meters, we're going to be proactive. We're going to tell you every single month. If it's a large leak, you're going to get an alert immediately to your phone, to the on-site person. Hey, this unit spiked water last night. You know, and it may not do it all the time, but it spiked last night. It's probably a toilet flapper failing or the toilet's running. We run into properties, I mean, that I walked through the property with the owner because he had several of these smaller apartment communities. And he said, these people aren't using that much water. You got problems with it. I said, well, let's walk through the units. And walked into one. He said, now this guy works 2 jobs. He sleeps during the day, but he's got 2 jobs. And I said, oh. I walked in there and we had to wake him up. And I noticed the toilet bowl was empty. And I said, does that toilet keep you awake? He says, no, I just turn it off when I'm not using it. I just turn it off underneath the toilet. So, you know, in another unit, we walk in and the guy goes, this little old lady lives there. Well, I looked over the kitchen sink. She's got a hookup for a wash machine. I asked her, I said, do those little wash machines really do a good job? And she said, no, usually you got to do the load about 2 or 3 times to get it clean. So it's that we find 2 families living in an apartment. You know, it's there's supposed to be 2 people there, and there's 4 people there. Well, we got the water, you know. At least the landlord's getting paid for the water. But he's like, why are these people using so much? And we're like, it's most likely because the consistent usage here shows 4 people. So, and we pick all that stuff up. All that is just data, and our computerized system sends out alerts constantly. So we like to be really proactive, and it's one of those businesses where we're helping the environment, and the owners are helping the environment. When you get 30 to 40% water waste, you're paying for every gallon of water that's it's drawn from the environment, but then you're treating each one of those gallons that you're leaking. And the sewer systems get overtaxed. You know, property taxes go up for a sewer system that's treating just water that's leaking through the system. So it's one way an owner can, you know, feel good about what he's doing, and he's still creating profit for himself.
You were also talking about leak detection and, you know, a burst pipe or even ongoing, just continuous flow. Those things I think would be hugely beneficial to an owner.
Oh, absolutely. It's especially if they've been through one plumbing catastrophe, the leaks inside the wall. You know, copper pipe is notorious for springing pinhole leaks. And the aspect of mold and mildew is a huge concern, especially for older populations. And attorneys love that word too. So that's another reason to know what's going on your property.
So your equipment would give an alert saying this unit has been running water continuously for X number of hours. There's some issue.
Absolutely. And that's automatic. And those alerts not only come straight to us, but they also go to the owner. And like I said, we have phone apps. So, you don't have to be tied in front of a computer to get it. It'll go right to your phone app and it'll identify the unit and whether or not, and all that data is available. You can tell whether or not it's ongoing, spikes, but it's the slow leaks that are really important to get also. And sometimes owners don't like us at first because, to be quite honest, we identify slab leaks. And if you're ever involved with a leak underneath the concrete, it's there and it's going to do damage, but we can identify that also. But we within three months, we tighten up a property pretty quick. And when the savings start showing up on the utility bills, everybody's happy.
Is there any things that I didn't ask that you would think is important for an apartment building owner or a mobile home park owner who's considering installing a system like yours that they should be thinking about? It's really important for them to know.
Well, I think everybody always wants to do value-added opportunities. There's not a whole lot of budget neutral type of capital improvements you can do. This in essence, after the $150 is not in the budget. Return is long-term, the value added is long-term. So it's pretty simple. It's a win-win situation. It doesn't, when you're pulling your hair out and saying, well, I got to keep raising these rents and I'm about where making the same amount of money I was 2 years ago, it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the tenant. He's paying more rent. The owner is not increasing his revenue like he wants to. So this is the straightforward way to do it. There's profit in it. It makes sense for the owner, makes sense for the tenant. But long term also, it's you can't really put a dollar aspect on it, but this is what needs to be done all over the country. Everything should be metered. You can't manage something without the data. I mean, that's so true with this aspect. If your water's flowing and you don't know where it's going, it's just inefficient and it's bad for the environment. So this is a way that you're helping the environment, you're doing something that's good for the environment. Your residents are actually, when they get on board and they're saying, well, we're trying to, conserve water, because they don't want to pay for it either. But they also get the aspect that this is the right thing to do. So I think those are the two things that you got to really keep in mind. You're going to make money off of it, but you're also helping the environment.
And what's the best place for people to look at, either get information for you or get your contact information? It's better to contact you, go to your website. Is there someone else they should contact in your organization? What's the best way for people to?
Well, we're here to answer your sub-metering questions. So that we can be contacted directly from our website at southernwatermanagement.com. Also, if you Google us, we're on many blog sites, providing a lot of information out there. And I provide my personal cell phone, and I'll answer anybody's questions. We've been doing this long enough that we can basically answer or give somebody whether or not they're going in the right direction or not pretty quickly. We've got, like I said, we've got real estate people that call us, brokers, that say, what's the aspect of this using this much water? What do you think, might be, which direction should we go with this? And that's why you see a lot of times it's getting to be the norm. If the property isn't sub-metered, it always has a tagline on there somewhere that, there's opportunities here to sub-meter and charge the tenants. So it's, we're here at Southern Water Management, and feel free to contact us, Google us, and I'd like to help as many people out as I could.
As you were speaking, I thought of something. I was trying to think of a situation where an apartment owner or a multifamily owner would not want to sub-meter, and the only thing that came to my mind, and you can correct me if I'm missing something, would be if the water supply lines going into each unit, I guess, were inaccessible or difficult to get to put a meter on?
Yes. without getting into technical aspects, there's basically three different ways to submeter. One is 100% capture, which refers to an individual service line going to each unit. Basically, if you've got an apartment with an individual shutoff in it, we can capture 100% of the water. Next one is a ratio billing. Sometimes they consider RUBS, where we monitor the flow from the going into the hot water tank. Now, if they've got an individual hot water tank, we can always do that. The next one is an allocation based on number of tenants and the number of fixtures in each unit. Now, are you going to get the leak detection as much? Not immediately, but the resident or the tenant's going to get a bill each month, and they're going to have they're going to be impacted by an overall leak on the property, because we're going to reconcile to the property's bill and then allocate it back. So utility billing to the tenants can be done on any property.
For owners who are thinking about doing this, is it best to them to call you and say, hey, this is the kind of building I have, this is how old it is, this is how many units it is, and is that the best thing to do to start getting the process started with you?
Yes, first thing to do is look at your water bill. Divide it by how many tenants you have. And if you're over 2,000 gallons per tenant, you've got, substantial leaks, and you either start a leak detection program, or you get it submetered, or we do both at the same time. Any property, actually. We've got a set price. Our price is out there already. We're not going to put different line items and make it all confusing, and our contracts are cancelable in 30 days notice. If you don't like us, we're using non-proprietary software, non-proprietary metering equipment. You can get on the phone and find somebody else to take us over, almost immediately. So those are items you need to look at. But yes, to get the step going, they make initial contact, let us know where the property's at, how many units it is, send us over a quick email from the website. From there, we take a look at your utility bills, give you an idea of how much you can save. Then after that, we got standard 4 items about what we need to get it up and running. And that's all done in a startup package that we provide the owner.
Dan, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming on here. And if everyone wants to get a hold of you, it's Dan at southernwatermanagement.com. It's southernwatermanagement.com. Dan, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.